welcome to another episode of Troubled, a return to Haven. This is a rewatch podcast dedicated to the Sci-Fi Channel show called Haven, based on the Stephen King novella, The Colorado Kid. It's been 10 years since the show started, and that's why we made a return to Haven. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Finch.
And I'm the co-host, Rich, more importantly known as Alex's dad, and thanks for returning to Haven with us.
If you want to find out where to reach us and stuff, we'll have that all at the end of the episode or in the show notes, like episode discussions. You can find all that information and the following links that we'll be talking about in our outro. So last episode 2, we kind of changed the format. We're going to stick with that. So we'll do a brief outline of the episode real quick, then, discussion questions. And at the end, last time we did a 10-minute segment on the opening to the show. This time we're going to do just a little Stephen King dedicated moment to talk about fun facts, trivia, and whatnot. Let's just get rolling right into the outline for episode 3, Harmony. Episode starts, we're with Audrey and Nathan Wright. They're just kind of talking. She's, here to stay about the troubles. She doesn't want to admit that she's into it, but Nathan's kind of, and they're joking around and all that. And when we get a call for an incident at the psychiatric hospital, right? Or do we get a little stinger for before?
We get a little, it opens at the Freddy. So.
Oh, okay. Well, tell us about that.
So it opens up at the Freddy, the Murray Q. Fredrickson Psychiatric Facility. Well, they just call it the Freddy, which is totally, sounds like a King name, so I give them credit for that. And we see there have, some patients who are catatonic, and then someone who looks very schizophrenic at a piano, and we find out that's Lily and her husband Ray. And all of a sudden, there's a big crash, and it's pandemonium. And the doctor has gone insane, and he is rampaging. And 3 patients escape. He takes the orderly, and the doctor throws him through the window. And that's what leads to Nathan and Audrey being called.
Right, and he gets a call over the radio from who?
Laverne. So I think this is the first time we hear Laverne's smoky voice and silky stylings on the dispatch. And just as a side note, she's actually one of the producers, and she does the voice.
And she's isn't she in all moving forward in a lot of episodes when they get dispatch calls? It's Laverne, right?
Right. Yeah, they really like her voice. They had commented specifically how they liked it, and she will be she'll be playing a part in the show, but never seen.
Kind of similar to Diane from Twin Peaks, except actually heard. Moving on from that, so Nathan and Audrey show up at the Freddy. Yeah, so a doctor. They're like, who's causing all this chaos? From the orderly, and she's like, oh, it's the doctor. So Dr. Lucchese, right?
Correct.
He's lost his temper. Is a mild way of saying it. He's throwing people through windows and some expertly done stunt scenes. Audrey and Nathan are approaching, doing the FBI approach. Audrey, going in stealthy. But what's the way they have a specific way of taking him out, right? Which looks kind of suspect on a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
How do they take him out?
So the way they take him out is, and this was inspired by King Kong. So, funny thing, Audrey and Nathan then get some glass bottles of ether, and they start throwing them in there. And the creators and the writers, they joke about how Nathan was directed to throw like a girl, and so that Audrey's was better. And they're like, Audrey really can toss it, but Nathan's looked horrible. They said his looked horrible, but it didn't look as bad after editing, but yeah, it's pretty funny. And that's what takes down Doc is the ether.
Would that kill him, do you think? Is that safe? I've heard chloroform causes a lot of more damage than movies make it seem. Is it would the ether just knock him out and he'd be okay, or what?
Well, it's 3 bottles of it, and it's just, I think theoretically, with this amount of space in the room, I am surprised he went down that fast, to be honest with you. I thought it would take a little more time to get to him. So, he'd probably be okay, but then he'd probably collapse right into all the glass and cut his face up, and shit. So
you never tested this out as a pharmacy tech or working in healthcare?
No. I used to spend my time when I was hungry eating fluoride tablets, which you eat enough of them, you will get sick.
Yeah, I thought the game, I know when I worked in an equipment room for film gear, one of the joke games there was to take an empty case of the lens and throw it to not that I I never did it, but as you throw a case with a really expensive lens at a new person, a new tech, and see them freak out and try to catch it, and it coming open, even though there's nothing in there. Surprised you guys didn't do that with the ether. Just toss a bottle of ether at each other and see if the new guy can catch it.
Oh, what we used to do was much better for us. We would, when I was in a combat support hospital, the one I deployed to Somalia in, what we would do is we had this hurricane spray, which was an aerosol spray of lidocaine. So we would spray the rims of people's coffee mugs, and then they would drink it, and their lips would go numb, and they start dribbling coffee down onto their
oh my God.
It's hilarious. Hilarious. Had some pissed off people, but everyone who was in on the joke loved it. Then another thing we'd do is take someone common who was part of the hospital unit but wasn't medical and ask them to go get supplies. So you'd say, hey, go to the OR and get fallopian tubes. And then the person would go over there and get, I'm here for fallopian tubes. And they'd be like, sterile or non-sterile, you got to know. And then he runs back, sterile, non-sterile, sterile. And then finally the third time they let him know they were just messing with him. Yeah. So,
I think we had a non-existent item we'd send a new person to find. I don't remember what it was even called. I think it was, but we had a similar thing. I feel like every, mechanics have like headlight fluid, right? Everybody's got one. Okay, back on track. So they get there, the doctor, they knock him out, he gets strapped up. They see the green goo on the floor, assume that's what's doing it, and then they go looking for the two missing patients, right?
Right. They go look for William, and I call him the flower guy until I watched the commentary. I finally figured out his name was Mr. Speary. I missed it like twice and they only say it like twice.
Yeah. So William, aka LeBron James, right?
Right. Yeah. He's a regular LeBron James as the ball hits his chest and hits the floor.
Yeah, the nurse, one of the only two black guys we've seen in Haven, the nurse is already compares him to LeBron James. Which, positive note, that this is the first time we have any minorities in the show. Got two black guys finally. The first two episodes were, probably typical of Maine, but I think it shows its age compared to 2020, where you're not going to see as much of a lack of diversity in TV as we did in 2010. Right,
and there are more characters that down the line, but probably not as many as you would see today. But there is one funny thing about the Freddy. So the Freddy is named after Murray Fredrickson. So I guess Murray was a local car salesman, and he just one day up and declared that I can breathe underwater like a fish, and then disappeared under the sea. So Audrey asked, well, was that during the Troubles? And Nathan deadpans, no, he was just crazy.
But we do have mermaids in the intro, don't we? So who knows?
We do. Oh, yeah, I won't be giving any spoilers, but
just a tease. Just a tease. So then they go looking for those two patients. They find them. We'll get to the third patient in a second. They find the two patients in a backyard. Williams is jumping on a trampoline, and what's Speary?
Speary. Yeah, he's got two, and that's the reason I call him Flower Guy, because he's got like two flowers, one behind each ear. He's all happy, smiling, watching William have fun with the kid on the trampoline. So that's why I started dubbing him Flower Guy, because he was so happy. He had a guy really had a good smile.
And he knows a lot about flowers. William's jumping around when they're normally like fairly catatonic. What Audrey and Nathan approach them thinking they might be dangerous, but they're pretty cool. And they're trying to explain everything until they go back to being catatonic, right?
At the Freddy, right. So they get to the Freddy, and right before Mr. Speary, Flower Guy, goes back to catatonic, he's like gaping at Audrey, and he says daisies, snapdragons, orchids, and then he just like collapses back into catatonic, and she catches him, and then Nathan catches William, and
Dr. Lucchese, our psycho doctor who got King Kong'd, comes back, and he's normalized and is like, oh yeah, I can explain, something happened. I was experimenting with some drugs, but we need to find the third patient, Lily, right?
Lily, correct.
And so we find Lily has gone back to her home where her husband is. He had been visiting her in the hospital before everything went crazy, or like right as everything was going crazy. Excuse me. And she has severe severe OCD. She's a musician who, when she doesn't write everything perfectly, starts to kind of get violent and a little, I was going to say violent again. Yeah, destructive is a better word. Not using the same word to describe the same thing. She gets violent, destructive, so that's why she is institutionalized, and she's kind of back to normal. Ray, is surprised by, and he tries to...
Yeah, it's a little misleading because kind of when she is in her schizophrenic manic mode, she's scribbling because she's writing music and, scribbling. And when he comes in, she's at the fridge with a piece of paper and she's writing. Now, it's not frantic or anything, but, and then he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "I think I'm okay." And then he's like blown away. And
yeah. What was it, like a grocery list? Probably. Right,
because she goes through like one beer packets, like typical single guy who doesn't have an intelligent lady in his life, keeping them straight. Don't ask what my fridge looks like.
So eventually, though, she returns back to her original state, right? And as Audrey and Nathan kind of come looking for them, she's escaped and is running wild in the town now that she's kind of returned to her OCD nature. And Ray, teams up with the cops to go find her. And so they split up. Audrey wants to go with Dr. Lucchese and figure out, what was up with the drugs, whereas Nathan goes with Ray to find Lily. Let's start with Audrey, right? Because it's kind of happening a little simultaneously, but this one ends a lot quicker. So we'll just knock this one out real quick. It's like Audrey and the doctor go back to the Freddy to investigate the drugs he was making, which leads to a completely fucking insane scene. Preposterous. I don't even know what to say. Is that, he goes and he's like, "Yeah, it's the drug I was making, setting up a new dosage," and then locks Audrey out of the room and spills the whole beaker. Rather than just like a sample, he spills all of it in the room, intending on recreating his psychotic super strength rampage from earlier, which has no effect. It turns out it wasn't the drug. So we need to start looking elsewhere for the results, or for the reason behind the thing that's changing people.
And I think we'll probably revisit the scene, after the summary and that, because there are some takes on this from me and from the creators and the writers. They did specifically mention this part, because I definitely see what you're saying. It's preposterous, but it didn't work. But at one note, Audrey does notice that there's surveillance camera, so there's footage. Yeah. So that's where they're going to go next.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because they see that William, aka LeBron James, picked up the basketball before the drugs spilled, so therefore it can't be the drugs. So it's someone else.
Not only did he pick it up, he was doing like a crossover. It was between the legs and everything. On carpet, and it was slightly before the tray of drugs smashed on the floor. So that's what they see at Haven PD.
We cut back to Nathan and Ray going into the scupper. Ray heads in without Nathan because Nathan's got to talk to Duke, who's buying a swordfish. Like a
wall-mounted swordfish that for like, and it's just a silly scene. Duke's got his kind of shit-eating grin on and that, and that's almost every conversation between them devolves into bitterness.
Yes, and then Duke finally asks Nathan if he's told Audrey that he's not a real boy, and does the nose thing like Pinocchio. Probably my favorite part of the episode.
That was good. I was glad for Duke to be back, and I know we're going to talk more about this later. Well, what we think certain things mean and all of that. But yeah, Nathan does his usual, just start antagonizing on him. And I'll talk about But one interesting thing, real quick, just to kind of think about this and go along, is multiple times Duke calls Nathan Nate. And like I said, we'll talk more about that later. It's just that I definitely made a note of that, because I hadn't heard anyone else call him Nate.
Are you someone who shortens people's names? Because I definitely worked with a Nathan that I would call Nate, and I don't know if like that. It's always dodgy if they like it or not.
It's different. I think some of it's generational, and some of it's definitely regional. Growing up in Wisconsin, in the my formative years were the 80s. I graduated high school in 1990. And during that time in the Midwest, no one went by their full name. You never said, "Hey, there's Jonathan, and there's Steven." No, they would say, we all called ourselves, like me, Rich. I'm Rich, but is my name Rich to my family? No, I'm Richie. And my best friend is Joey. We even had a friend named Scott. We would call him Scotty. Steve was Stevie. That's just a thing they did in the Midwest, and no one called by full name. Now, later in life, I started meeting people like 10 years younger than me who insisted on being called Jonathan. And it's
Jeffrey,
you have a right to,
right?
You have a right to, however you want your name to be. And, I'll respect that. And I struggle with it sometimes, and I slip and I start calling some people. I got a friend named Michael who's like 30, and he likes to call Michael. Every now and then I slip and I call him Mike, and he likes me. So, he doesn't have a lot of friends, so he can't really be picky.
I honestly never even considered that Joey was I never thought of his name being Joseph or Joe. It's only ever been like Joey in my mind. Or is it not Joseph?
You are correct, sir. His birth certificate is Joey Michael.
So it actually is Joey?
His legal first name is Joey, always has been. And I always teased him, and I'd ask his parents, both who have passed, God rest their souls. I'd be like, okay, if you named the first name Joey instead of Joseph, why isn't it Joey Mike? Why do you decide to go full name for the middle name? I mean, it's my best friend of 40 years, and I'm like, what? It has never made sense. And but yeah, he's the only person I've ever met whose legal first name is Joey.
I mean,
I'm sure there's more out there.
I knew a kid whose legal name, birth certificate name was Alex rather than Alexander, which
it's
not as Joe. I think Joey's more interesting. I never heard of somebody's birth certificate name being Joey.
No, it's I found out when we went to Little League. We signed up for Little League. You got to bring your birth certificate. And that's when I learned.
They're just really big fans of kangaroos.
Yes. They're well-traveled, the parents.
After Nate and Duke's conversation, Nathan kind of heads in to the scupper, right? Is it a bar? Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's a bar with the piano, the shiny scupper.
Yeah. So they go into the scupper, and Lily's in there trying to compose her new masterpiece and getting frustrated, and Ray kind of sits down with her. And they're touching the keys a bit when the effect happens again.
The thing that happens before that, and I'm sorry I missed this, was Ray has a very personal and conversation with Nathan about what happened, why she's in that state. And it's really important because record companies were interested in her, and he was pushing her, to follow your heart, get your music. And so they were driving up to a recording studio, and he lost control of the car. They went into the river, and he got out, but she didn't get out till I think 6 or 8 minutes later, and the icy water probably saved her life, kept her alive, because it slowed her heart down. But she's never been the same ever since. And he clearly blames himself, which is one of those things that sucks because, yeah, he's right. It is his fault. But, he never meant to intend to do it, to hurt the person he loves the most in the world. So, so all this time, Ray is, this is Ray's filter. This is what he's seeing everything through. So it might explain things as we go on. So
the effect happens. We kind of cut to Duke working on his boat, right?
Yeah,
right. Nate, we'll talk the scene. Shirtless Duke is working real hard on the boat, and Nathan comes up attacking him, and I think
first he kind of like a verbal assault, you take from people, and then it gets physical, and and Nathan is throttling him. It actually looked like Nathan, was choking him.
Well, right. Audrey tased him because we skipped a part that Audrey and the doctor showed up to the scupper, found the chaos. And she realizes Nathan's gone and figures where he's going to go is to go attack Duke. So she tases him. That takes him out, asks Duke, hey, watch over him while I look around. And I think that's where we finally figure out, right, that they're like, Lily did this, but now they're figuring out that Ray, right, is that if it's, or do they still think it's Lily? It's not till they get back to the boat. She still thinks it's because she doesn't know. She just assumed that Lily would be the one playing. So when she gets back to the boat, and Nathan is, as Duke said when he called her, that he Sleeping Beauty has woken up. And I think that's when the audience probably figures it out. Is what I guess what I was thinking is that the first time you see her playing the piano in the very beginning, so you're kind of I think it's this Lily lady. But then this time you see the camera really focuses on Ray hitting the keys on the piano, and that's when I was like, they still want us to think it's her, but it's him starting.
Right. But, it's the formula. You got to go through two false positives.
Yeah, bait us a couple times and then, but you weren't expecting this. Nathan had his little rampage, revealed a lot of him and Duke's not good relationship, and Ray escapes with Lily and they need to find out where he is, right? And Duke knows, doesn't he? But he doesn't want to tell.
They figure out that based on a picture they have of Ray and Lily in front of on a ship, the Caprice. So they figure out that they must be at the boat. The boat was Ray's grandfather's from when the family crashed ashore in Haven. They want to find the boat. No one can find it, but Duke, with his background in smuggling and all of that, he knows where the boat is.
Yeah, but he wants to be taken along.
He insists he won't give him the information till he's taken along. But in between the time they get there, we end up back at the Caprice. And while we're there, Ray and Lily are, chatting it up. Lily's not happy that he's hurting people to get her back to normal. She doesn't think it's right or fair, but then she starts going into one of her fits. So Ray pulls out his guitar and starts playing, and she comes back to lucidity. But problem is, Doc Lucchese just arrived, and he goes back to Rampage Lucchese.
This fucking doctor. First, I don't even know where to begin with this doctor, but yeah, sneaking up on the boat where the guy, if you hear his musical instruments, will drive you insane. So they get there to the Caprice, the Haven crew. She's there, but Ray and the doctor are gone. And the doctor's kidnapped Ray, is taking him back to the hospital to operate on his brain, right? Because he wants to know the secret to healing people.
Right. He wants to find a cure to Alzheimer's and other conditions like that, because he clearly has, expressed earlier he'd lost watching a family member waste away like that. And he's seen other people do that. So his heart is in the right place, comes from good intent. But, when you're all jacked up on someone else's rage roids.
Yeah. So Audrey uses her superpower of de-escalation, calms him down enough to hit him with the defibrillator, takes him out.
Before that, Nathan loads his gun, and then Audrey's like, "Hey, he's a good doc, he's a good man. What you got?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's also crazy as a crap house rat, outhouse rat. Damn it, I fucked up the line. He's as crazy as an outhouse rat."
Damn. So if you were auditioning for Nathan, you wouldn't. You're done from that.
No, I can grow real sideburns.
Yeah, but you can't connect it to the rest of the beard. Thanks for those genes.
Yeah.
So they, they stop him, and it seems like we got to kind of put Lily back in the institute, and Ray can't play music anymore, except everybody's kind of feeling bad for them, right? So they decide to sneak Lily, Ray, William, the basketball player, and Mr. Flower guy. I already forgot his name. Mr. Flower guy. Let's go with that. They sneak the four of them out to a boat, right?
Right.
And they're going to kind of let him go. So Ray can play music for them to keep their sanity while they're away from everybody and they're not a danger to society anymore. And then
the only dock when it's safe, So.
Yeah. One very vital thing happens, right? We finally figure out why the flower guy was, astonished by Audrey when he first saw her.
They're getting ready to leave. He explains to her, he's like, "I got to apologize for just gazing at you, but you're the spitting image of someone I sold flowers to 23 years ago." I think he said 23 years. And,
well, wouldn't it be X amount?
It may have been years ago, but then he says, "I don't remember faces," and that he goes, "I remember flowers. So you look like someone I sold flowers to a long time ago. Daisies, snapdragons, orchids." So the ship's leaving. It's already pulling off. So Audrey's running, and she's like, "I got more questions." And he's like, "Was this around 1983?" And he says, "Yeah, it was." And then she's like, "Do you remember her name?" And kind of at the point where it'd be the last point you could hear anything from the flower guy. "Lucy, I believe her name was Lucy." And we got her name.
So we got a name for the woman in the Colorado Kid photograph who Audrey believes to be her mother at this point in time. And that's kind of where we leave off, right? Well, we get a conversation with her and Duke and her and Nathan, kind of still, we're in that love triangle where Duke's like, "Don't tell people I'm a good guy." What was her and Nathan's conversation about?
Her and Nathan's conversation was about, she shares, that the name was Lucy, and he's, and they talk about, and she admits that she gets kind of turned on by the troubles and helping these people. Nathan says, "You want to fix them," and then he says, "Maybe somebody can fix me." And of course, you got to get there is no one who can fix Nathan type of thing.
Okay, and that's it for episode 3. How did this compare to you for episode? How did this compare to episode 2 for you?
I liked it. I think I liked it more. I have to admit that Episode 2 was like Nathan centric, so I think I gave it 4 stars. I think this was a better episode overall. I really liked the romance, having a little hint of romance in the story. That was nice. It had its shares of laughs with a little romance. Last week we didn't get enough laughs really, which was some of the best lines were like angry lines. I really enjoyed it. This episode pretty much cemented Audrey's role of fixing the trouble and how much she likes these weird cases and doing it. It's really good episode. And at some point we'll talk about the actor that plays Ray. He's pretty neat.
Well, you can just say it now. It's Lyric Bent, right? He was in Saw 2, 3, and 4. Was he just Lieutenant Rig or like Lieutenant Commander Rig or something like that? He was a SWAT leader. Right.
I haven't seen him in so long that I didn't recognize him from him. You're the big Saw fan. I've seen them all with you for the most part, but
you don't forget shoulders like his. They're freakish.
Yeah, the creators mentioned that he's if you first see him, walks into a room, he's kind of intimidating, but then you meet him and he's like the nicest guy in the world. He's got like they say like the brightest smile and things of that nature for him. I knew you would know him from Saw.
Yeah, surprise, he doesn't. Things don't go well for him in Saw.
He doesn't actually play the guitar.
He does?
He doesn't.
He doesn't. I was like, because they kind of face him away from the camera. So I was like, I bet he doesn't even play the fucking guitar.
Yeah, it was. But I think that's a cool name that he should be like. He's born with a perfect hip hop name.
Lyric Bent.
Lyric Bent. Oh my God. Yeah.
Does he play any of the other instruments like piano or?
I don't believe so, and I didn't read it anywhere that he did. Everyone should have a hip hop name, in case you ever make it. Yeah. Do you have a hip hop name?
I need to use the Wu-Tang name generator is what I need to do.
I've already got a hip hop name and I tested it out.
Oh God, here we go. What is it?
So it's 2015. I'm in Austin at South by Southwest, and my friends Ashley and Doug that I went with, we were going to restaurants, and we kept noticing that people with certain wristbands were getting like faster service and that, and we found out they gave wristbands for people who were in bands. So we started going around telling everyone we were in a band. We were a Sausage Party, which was before the movie came out. Rogan and them came out. But then I was like, there's a lot of hip hop at South by Southwest. So I had to come up with my hip hop name. It's like White Cheddar.
Oh, did anyone buy it?
Not the White Cheddar one. And
another surprise for sure.
I'm Caucasian and I'm from Wisconsin, America's Dairyland. It makes sense. Cheddar, some people call it cheddar slang for money. I can't rap. That's the problem.
You guys should have brought the recorder like Ray Lyric Bent did in the show. Do you notice that? Like of all the instruments he pulls out on the boat, one of them's the fucking recorder. And I was like, okay, you have a guitar and like probably some it looks like a tambourine or something. You're really going to be playing who wants to hear the recorder?
Yeah.
It's every third grader's instrument, okay, is a recorder.
As the creators dubbed it, the recorder of doom. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this episode a lot more than episode 2. As we talked about last time, I wasn't super into episode 2. I remember back in the day it feeling it kind of took me out of the show a little bit. I think this one is a much better representation of the show. But as we talked about a little before we started recording, episode 2 originally used to be episode 4. So it jumped the order from 4 to 2. And this one was originally episode 2. That's now 3. It's super confusing sounding out loud. But I think episode 2 does a lot of dirty work that the pilot didn't do. The pilot made sure that it was entertaining, was its like number one goal. And then episode 2 does a lot of the kind of like expositional dirty work of setting up what this show is about that this episode doesn't really have. So I definitely see why that one jumped to episode 2 to get that stuff out of the way. But this one is more, to me, representational of the relationships, the fun of the show, the kind of crazy troubles characters run into. And it's just funnier, like you said. I totally agree that's funnier. It's more enjoyable. It's more adventurous feeling. Versus 2 is a bit like edgy. It takes itself, I think, a little too seriously sometimes. Or as this one felt appropriately dark, but like, which wasn't very much.
Yeah,
What's up?
Ernst and Dunn wanted to make it darker actually, but they got pushed back from the networks and studios. So
I gotta actually agree with the network and studio. Usually I'm not. Usually I'll almost always be like, yeah, the writers and directors are like, listen to them. But I'd actually say I agree that I like this one for being more fun. I think it's just a better all-around episode. But like I said, I understand why Butterfly became episode 2 to do that expositional dirty work for show as a whole.
Make all the heavy lifting on Nathan's episode. Yeah. No, and that's one of the reasons why, and this will happen commonly in their episodes as Haven goes on, is that, there's not a real true villain. The Doc's not a villain. The Doc seriously wants to help these people and prevent Alzheimer's and other types of conditions. He can't help his response to it. He can't help how he does his experiment, but right. And then Ray, he's not a true villain. I mean, he's this guy who's crushed by causing this debilitating condition for his wife. Audrey seems to always find a way to be able to fix the situation and get a happy ending. And then we also got our first, kind of big nugget regarding the main case of the Colorado kid. We got a name, Lucy. I think that was very important. We really didn't get anything like that in episode 2.
Well, we had to get the troubles, right? They had to establish, because episode 1, the agent mentions troubles, but he doesn't call it the troubles, right? That's kind of this episode. That was episode 2, setting up that, these afflictions happen to a bunch of people in town. They're maybe curses, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And then 3 gets to have fun.
Right. I believe the first time I watched episode 1, back in the day, I don't think I took anything out of him. Yeah, maybe she can help you with your troubles.
Right. You wouldn't if you hadn't seen it before. Yeah. So I think one thing about the episode that didn't really jive with me was Duke wanting to come along, right? He offers the information where the Caprice is in exchange for being able to join along in the adventure, but it felt like just a really thinly veiled excuse to have Duke there, rather than giving a good explanation. What I thought was that maybe he's been looking for, if he had been looking for something, he knew the Caprice, or, nearby boat had a little lockbox of treasure or contraband that he wanted as a smuggler or something, or fake passports, whatever he, does. But he's just kind of there and he's just kind of standing around a lot of the time. And he just wanted to know about the troubles, but I don't know. He strikes me as the type of guy that the concerns of the town aren't really his concerns. He's very self-centered and
he's supposed to be self-centered and dastardly, but in the same token, and the way I kind of see it is at the end of the episode, Audrey has her conversation with Duke. After combining those 2 scenes, it seems to me that he was figuring out that the troubles were coming back, and I think he thought that before they wanted to go to the shipyard to get the Caprice. And I think he wanted to know what was going on, truly wanted to know what was going on, because the troubles were back. Because if he's known Nathan since he was 5, he knows when Nathan was afflicted, with the troubles and all of that. So maybe, and you think about maybe practicality for smugglers, troubles are back. That might bring heightened police attention to things, might make my job a little harder to do. So there could be a kind of a career aspect to it. Maybe there is a heart underneath there in Duke for his hometown. Nah. Okay.
Not
but he looks
me.
Good with no shirt. So.
I was going to say, maybe that's what his trouble is that he can't wear a shirt when he works. You got to get the cheesecake. I guess we had Audrey in just her shirt, without any pants on the first episode. So it's only appropriate we get Duke working out without a shirt. And he looks good, but, we were both talking about how guys that work on ships, he's carrying heavy wooden crates and stuff. There's maybe nails sticking out of him. There's splinters and stuff. You don't want to be shirtless when you're lifting that stuff around. You want some gloves on and a shirt. And who works on a ship that looks like that? So,
back when this originally aired at that time, Duke was a shirtless guy of the week on the internet. So he won that vote. Had that kind of ab V thing going on, D'Angelo did back around 2000. You won't remember that. He was an R&B singer, and some people, it was a controversy. He did a video of him singing, kind of looking naked, but they cut it right, at the V sort of thing. And he was became a sex symbol for everyone. So, and then once again, Eric Balfour was the spokesperson for Valentino 5 at this time. So he's doing all these ads, but yeah.
The truest
practicality
DV.
of moving boxes with without a shirt and all that. You're going to rip a nipple off or something.
Yeah, I can't believe they didn't add a nipple piercing.
Yeah, that's it's like when the tattoo phase came back, and I started like in the early 2000s. I'd like see some lady in her in her mid 60s, sporting some new ink, and I'd be like, come on now, you're waiting till retirement now.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. What if she had a career she couldn't, but she always wanted to? I could see that makes sense.
I met her at work. She was still working.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk about was the director of the episode was Rachel Talalay.
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
I remember recognizing the name once I saw it, looked her up, and she has directed a bunch of like really good stuff. She started, she's done Dead Zone episodes, so that's probably how the showrunners met her. There's this show called Touching Evil, and I'm pretty sure you and me watched it. I just don't remember. I remember we watched it, but I don't remember much about it.
Same boat.
Yeah.
I bet you if I read up on it,
yeah.
I would remember it. But she's done a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, did some episodes of your favorite show, Kyle XY. She did an episode for Flash Gordon. Remember the sci-fi Flash Gordon show? We tried watching it, both of us, but I don't think we got very far because there will not be a Flash Gordon rewatch pod from us.
No, that will not be happening. The biggies are Doctor Who, working on 2 Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and she worked on American Gods, which I loved. I loved American Gods.
Right.
I got to hold her accountable for Iron Fist, though. That hot
looks
garbage.
Like she's just doing looks like she did a CW run on Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Riverdale. And then I was doing a Netflix run with Iron Fist, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That's pretty good. And then
people got to pay bills, so I get that. I remember Michael Caine's roles in the 80s.
What do you say? For Jaws: The Return, I think he said I've never seen it, but I've seen the garage I paid for, and it is lovely. Still no Dave or Vince in this episode, and
I was disappointed.
No Chief either, but we had him last episode, so it was a substitute of Chief and I don't feel like we needed the Chief. We were good off of what we got, but we're still missing that Dave Vince connection.
Yeah. And see, Dave and Vince and Chief are kind of key to unlocking some of the mystery.
Yeah.
So like I said, they threw us a bone with Mr. Speary, a flower guy, telling her the name Lucy, not knowing how there could be what relation there is. So we got that, and that was good. But yeah, we need Vince and Dave. They also provide some comic relief with their bumbling and their bickering, which is kind of fun. And even in the Colorado Kid, they did tease each other. Speaking
of teasing, what did you think of the singing part in the operation room? Which I guess we didn't really say in the summary when we were summarizing the episode, but once Ray wakes up and Lily runs to him, she's getting closer to fading back to, being crippled with her OCD. But she explains that he can't continue to do this, and he basically has to let her go because she can't keep hurting people, and he's broken up, and so she starts singing him a song, kind of to soothe him. Till she reverts back. But so the singing though is like maybe worse than Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Like the singing in that from George Clooney. I don't know if that was possible. But it's not. It's so the song, the full song is by a duo called Sweet Talk Radio from up there, and that's not the singer. The singer surprise. It's a second singer for that song, and then the same song is played at the end. Right. But it's the actual song by the band Sweet Talk Radio. Right. But the lip syncing thing. Yeah. So she's singing, but it's clearly not the audio from the episode. It's the song just from the recorded track that she's lip syncing to, and it just looks fucking horrible. I try not to pay attention to it to let it take away from the beauty of the moment. It totally took me out of the moment. I was like, oh, I'm really, this is such a tragedy. I'm enjoying this so much. Oh, whoa, then you kind of start feeling almost like you're watching a Hong Kong movie brought to America with just a horrible dub or something. You're like, oh, no. Just have her really sing, please. Cast an actress who could sing. And maybe she could. And maybe something happened in post. We don't know. And the dub singing, not a good look to me. Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. It's a fair point. I think I go easy on the character of Ray because I feel how painful it must be
to have caused the downfall of the love of his life. That's
yeah. And obviously the part we said we'd talk about more with the just doctor's absolutely ridiculous plan in the lab with deciding to spill all of the chemicals at once. Because you see him loading up the tray, and he's got a couple of little cups of it, and then the giant, the comical glass beaker. It makes it look like, I don't know, it's like from like Dexter's Lab or, or fucking, like Pinky in the Brain or something. He's got his like comical beaker. Is it a beaker, or is that the one that's more closed, like a beaker? Is that what it is? A flask? I think you're right. An Erlenmeyer flask or something like that.
Something like that. Chemistry's been much longer away from me than you.
I didn't do too well in chemistry.
Neither did I. So there was actually discussed in the commentary of it, and when it was, I thought it was like kind of comical. And when it happened, I was like, oh, they're making a play at Dr. Jekyll and and Mr. Hyde. But they mentioned it in the commentary as well. And in the commentary, they're like, it's actually he's locking Audrey out so she can't get hurt by it. Or affected by it if it happens again. So he's trying to be safe, even though he does it in a pretty preposterous and silly way.
Just looks fucking stupid. He like takes the tray of all the chemicals. I was like, well, don't you want to
slams it?
And you're gonna fucking wreck this whole lab. Aren't you in a mental institution? We could like be like, hey, I'm gonna try it on me. Lock me in the padded cell or whatever.
Cell room,
or like strap me to the bed and we'll try it out.
There could have been more thought put into that piece
instead of like, hey, check the door. Like
they're very happy with how the actor played the doctor.
Oh, he was good. He was really convincing when you'd see him not in a like roid rage. He looked like a total like nerd scientist doctor guy. And then looked like a completely different person when he was like off his rocker. Whoever they picked, got a good guy to display nerd rage.
During that scene before it goes haywire and he locks Audrey out, he's got a great line. He talks about a few centuries ago, scientists were convinced the Earth was flat because everything they saw was flat. But was it? No, they were just afraid to open their eyes and sail. So and that comes into play later, and that's how Audrey convinces him to let the patients leave with Ray on the boat. So
yeah. But is that even true that people a couple hundred years ago thought the Earth was flat?
We got NBA players who think it is now.
Did you think this was a good place to drop the Lucy information here at the end of episode 3? Is this too much too fast? Because, pilot, we're given all the information, the premise of the show. Episode 2 is about the Troubles, kind of. And then episode 3, now we get this Lucy information. Did you feel like, hey, why is, we're revealing a little too much information, or did you feel like maybe this isn't even enough? Like, were you like, well, what does this even mean?
It's tough because, giving a name, when something's name, that you have power over it. Name is very powerful. I thought maybe it was too early for the name. Myself, I thought I would have wait longer into the season and some other pieces to it. And I think that's part of we don't have the Teagues here, and the Teagues often are able to assist and provide pieces to it. So, but I mean, it's great. If you said don't have it at all or have and the name is something that kind of does spark hope. There is more to this person than a name. Yeah, I like it, but I thought should have been a little later in the season, a different type of Colorado kid reveal. But
I think it was fine because it still doesn't tell us really much. It's just like a name. It wasn't like, oh, she was she was a race car driver. Like, you don't really find out anything like significant, just that she's named Lucy, because in the next episodes, she can still be looking up a Lucy in Haven from 83 and still not find anything out, right? The writers can kind of kick the can down the road without having to actually because it'd be different if they were like, oh, here's like her, official, here's her social security number. Then it'd be ridiculous if, right, Audrey can't get anywhere with this information. But just the name Lucy, it's still like something that we can still kind of like, they can drag out, but it's enough for us, the audience, to be like, oh, okay, well, we got a little something.
Yeah, and Vince and Dave know more than they're letting on to.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, I mean, do we really know? Because we haven't even seen them. We know. But we haven't seen them since episode 1 where they're riding their fucking tandem bicycle.
Tandem bike, that's right, yeah.
Have you ever ridden a tandem bicycle?
I have not, and I really don't have to. I have ridden one of those, one of those bar paddle
yeah,
bars.
yeah.
Downtown Denver. That wasn't good.
Do you think Vince and Dave have been on a pedal bar?
No, it's too cold up there most of the year. So they would
They could have taken a vacation to Florida. They're old. They'd like Florida. Well, not now, but you know.
I got a feeling if they took a vacation to Florida, they probably want to stay there. Okay?
Yeah, probably never come back.
Never go back, because once you get a taste of life without those winters,
there's no coming back.
You don't remember, you're too young, but you were born up there. I was stationed up there, and being from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I know me some cold winters, but I'm telling you, you get a nor'easter, that is some bad stuff to deal with. It is so cold, and the ocean air is even worse than lake air. There's a reason why I didn't go back to Massachusetts after I left the Army, or Wisconsin.
All right. Were there any other notes you wanted to?
Well, just a couple things. Might have mentioned already is I like this episode cements Audrey's role of fixing the troubled. That's one of the central things, and that she likes it. We didn't know already, Nathan's a mess in his head and heart, because that's what comes out while he's rampaging. He's a mess inside. He's broken man to an extent, and I hope he doesn't make any more horrible college jokes. I mean, that joke when they're like,
"Oh yeah,
I've never seen worse than this. I have. I went to college." Oh my god!
Yeah.
And I like that Audrey even just gives him the look like that blows. Stop. Yeah. And Nathan and Duke continue to have their issues, but the fact that Duke calls Nate really tells me they used to be close at one time. So once again, I'm still curious what drove them apart, but it appears the grudge is much deeper on Nathan's side, because Duke is calling him Nate. So he's somewhere in there, and I might be reading way.
That might be like insulting, right? Maybe he's a guy who is like, Nathan's Nate. My name. Yeah. Don't call me Nate. And, Duke calling him Nate's could be a poke, But
I know it all comes out down the road, what the enemy between them is, but I just can't remember what it was, which is good. That'll make this experiencing. I'm glad Duke was back. He is a douche, but his humor and goofiness balance things out, especially when Nathan's going to be kind of in a prick mode or rage mode type of thing. We got our usual formula, find a potential trouble, mistakenly think it's one person, then another person, but we're finally finding the actual person. We got our usual happy ending where Audrey fixes the troubled person and sets them off on their dream happy ending. So that's kind of the formula they're setting up. I think most of the time they're going to stick to it. And as we go along, my bad. Finally, we got the nugget on Audrey's, got a nugget on Audrey's case. So, and that was important, because you have to give us snippets of the underlying story while we go through the troubled procedural. Otherwise, it's just a monster of the week, and we're going to grow bored and lose interest. So
we mentioned it in the summary, but I just wanted to say real quick that definitely, because I think they use it in previews a lot. The Duke saying, "Does Audrey know you're a real boy?" and doing the elongated nose shape is probably my favorite moment of writing so far in the show. Just because it's such a dick thing to say, it's funny and it's telling. It just expands on their relationship, I think, in a way. It's how do I say this? So when you're writing, you want to compound as much information as you can into as small of lines as possible. It's all about economy of space, right? It's about how can I say 5 or 6 topics with 4 words or whatever. And I think that line is one of the most, what's the phrase? Economic. Like it's one of the best uses of their space in such a compacted line. Tells you exactly who Duke is. Nathan not really responding tells you exactly who Nathan is. And it kind of gives you this great hint of their relationship, which is also another thing you would have to expand upon. And Nathan's trouble.
Right. And what was the shot he was taking? Was it just that he was troubled? You're not a real boy because you got troubles? Or does his trouble, since he can't feel things, could that be, was he making a funny sexual insult at him?
Maybe he didn't really go to college.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows what it was? But it was great. That was one of the best scenes. And the way he does the nose is really well done. I mean,
I wonder how practiced it was. I wonder if they did because I hear David Finch on his movies, he does upwards of 70 takes for shots. I wonder if they were over and over. Did they say anything in the commentary about it?
No, nothing about it. They just they chuckled at it. The thing they were most proud of was was the graffiti on the sign at the Freddy. The creators and the writers, they thought that was the funniest graffiti ever in any show or any movie.
And what did it say again?
Come for the food, stay for the drugs. They did. They left and got on the boat. At least 3 of them did at the end. Now, the thing to note is, they were preparing them chicken salad sandwiches, which is pretty good. Who doesn't like some chicken salad?
At the end of every episode, we do a little segment on something different. Like I said earlier before, last episode, we did a little thing on the intro. And this time, we kind of wanted to talk about the man who brought us the novella, The Colorado Kid, and talk about some of just him in general, Stephen King. So we got some facts, stats, and cool trivia questions. We'll be asking each other, but we're going to have one for you guys, the audience, that we're going to ask, and we hope you can answer it. And we'll ask that kind of towards the end. But first, Stephen King, obviously one of America, maybe the world's great, most prolific writers. I've heard people question his quality, but I think it's unfounded criticism, to be honest. He's written 61 novels, 11 collections, 5 nonfiction books, and 15 other, which includes the novellas, a play, a music video, and a bunch of other kind of interesting little projects. He's worked comic books, a bunch of little things he's worked on over the years.
I'll take exception to people who decry the quality of his writing. Those are people who are just hating because of the genre. Personally, I think he's one of a technical writer. Maybe, are there better? I'm sure there are plenty. But there's not an author who creates characters and makes you care about them as well as he does. He's a character, a creator of character, and that's what he's known for. I mean, I first really fell in love with it with The Stand. I mean, I still to this day, it's my favorite book of all time. Favorite book. By the time I got to the end of The Stand, when certain characters would meet their untimely demise, I even had a little tear in the eye. And this was when I was 18, so I was a lot more callous back then. That sort of thing, not as nice as I am now. No, it always bugs me when they like, oh, he's just a horror writer. He doesn't write stuff.
It's definitely people who haven't read his stuff, really.
There's certain things he's done in specific works that I didn't necessarily like, but I still
Lidocaine.
Dark Tower, and I know you haven't read the Dark Tower, so I'm
finished.
Haven't finished the Dark Tower. I'm not gonna go into that. There's some things I don't like about it for sure, and but he's still hands down my favorite writer. The only one who I probably hold even close to just personally is Brandon Sanderson, but that's just a whole nother world. That's fantasy. King does things. The only thing I pick on him for, he comes up with the dumbest names, for things and dumb expressions.
He's done 49 movies adapted from his work. He has done, but there's been 26 TV shows based off of his, and this is just the ones completed. There's a ton. I think I looked at the list and it was like 10 movies currently in production or post-production even, getting ready to be released that are King movies. It was like 8 or so King-based TV shows coming out soon. 19 sequels that are based off his properties that he had that aren't from his stories. So like Pet Sematary 2, Children of the Corn 2, and the very long list leading off. Most of these are just Children of the Corn sequels, but there's a bunch. There's 19 sequels based off of stuff he didn't, off his original property that are new stories. I don't know if this one's true. I found this list, but I doubt the accuracy of the number. Is that apparently he's done 24 cameos in film and TV, which I actually think is probably higher than what they got. I bet it's a little higher than 24.
Oh, well, yeah. I personally think he insists he has to be in his own works when they get
Wouldn't you?
Over. I already told you. I'd be the sixth Backstreet Boy. So, he's in The Stand at the end. Yeah, he plays.
He's Teddy. Yeah,
he's Teddy. Hey, look, Stew's back. Hey, look. I don't want to tease him because he's literally my favorite author. I respect and admire him so much. So
yeah, we need him as a guest. So don't insult.
Oh, that would be amazing. Oh gosh.
He's like, yeah, I listened to the old episode. You making fun of me?
He's making fun of Teddy.
There you go. There you go.
That's my out.
Do you know what his play that he co-wrote was? Not there's ones based off of his works. Like Carrie had one a long time ago, which I think they brought back in 2012 for a little bit.
But this is a play he wrote directly.
He co-wrote with John Mellencamp.
Huh.
Do you know the name of the play?
I do not know that one. I do not.
I do actually remember when it came out. I remember reading about it. I don't know anything about the play itself, but I do remember when it came out reading about it. I think there's a third writer, but I don't think I recognize the name. The most of the time they're just like Stephen King and John Mellencamp. So it's called Ghost Brothers of Darkland County.
Ghost Brothers of Darkland County?
Yeah, Darkland County. So I guess
Darkland. Okay, I have not heard of that.
I got you.
Wow.
Okay. Here's another one. He has a very specific phobia, like how like arachnophobia, one of those phobias. Like, do you know what his kind of biggest OCD fear is? It's pretty strange, and it's got a name that I don't know if I can pronounce it, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I was going to say cats, just because.
Oh, no. It's the number 13.
Oh, really? Okay, boy. I did not know.
Triskaidekaphobia? Triskaidekaphobia, I think. So he says when he's writing, he never stops on the page 13 or any variable at 13. Am I saying that right? Variable? Any 26, 39 onward. He doesn't. He even has like pages up in like 300. I can't remember if it's 382 or something like that. He won't stop on that page. He'll keep writing till he gets to a quote like safe number.
I did not know that, and I know you would find that interesting because you love that movie 13.
13.
Was it Jim Carrey movie?
That's the number 23.
Number 23.
13 is about the 13th Amendment, I think.
Well, that's important too.
It's a great documentary, but I would say I like it, but not like, oh yeah, like I'm
obviously trying to cover my ass. Yeah, I messed up there. Yeah, so.
So when he's walking upstairs in his back stairs, he skips the 13th step, goes right from 12 to 14. Okay, here's another. So King was declared 4F for Vietnam. There's 4 reasons why he was declared 4F. Do you know any of them at all? Like, we'll give you points. Let's see how many you can get. You get 4 guesses. Let's see how many of the 4 you can get.
His vision?
Yep, that's one of them. He had limited vision.
Limited vision. Flat feet.
Yep, flat feet. That's 2 you're 2 for 2.
I can't believe I got that many. Something like scoliosis with his spine?
No. Well, he didn't have a back injury right till he got hit by the car.
Dude, yes.
In 99.
Crunched by a minivan. Yeah.
Which he bought. He bought the car.
He's got enough money, man.
Oh, yeah. I think he said he was going to hit it with sledgehammers.
Seems very therapeutic to me.
Yeah. So you're 2 for 3. You got one more guess. Let's see if you can. So if you end 3 out of 4, that's 75%. That's a pass.
Hearing loss. Partial hearing loss.
You got it. It's a punctured eardrum.
Oh yeah. See, I didn't know those. I really just guessed those out of.
His 4th was blood pressure. His high blood pressure.
Blood pressure. I feel you, Stephen.
I can't remember.
No. Yeah, I was just looking at this. You know how you mentioned how he appeared on other shows. He appeared on Sons of Anarchy. I just saw.
Yeah, as I had no idea. Bachman, right?
Bachman. Oh, that's apropos, huh?
Yeah. We'll talk about Bachman in a minute. I had another question. So he's writing Misery. He buys it. I don't know if he bought it or rented it or was writing it somewhere, but he writes Misery at a very famous author's desk. Do you know which famous author's desk he was sitting at while writing Misery?
Raymond Bradbury.
No. I'll give you 3 guesses. I'll give you 3.
Hemingway.
No. So this would have been, just for context, it came out in 1987. So obviously it wouldn't be anybody, newer than 1987. So you've guessed Bradbury and Hemingway? No. I almost actually just said the writer's name when I was about to get which would have sucked, but I didn't. So you have one last guess.
John Steinbeck.
No, it was Rudyard Kipling, the guy who wrote The Jungle Book, who not only wrote The Jungle Book at this desk, but he died in the desk. He was sitting at the desk when he died. It didn't say if he was writing at the time, but I feel like part of King's gimmick of, haunted stuff and whatnot, writing a book at a famous author's desk where he died.
Yeah, like Trent Reznor living in the house where the Manson murders occurred, or they murdered Sharon Tate.
Did he? I don't know how I feel about that.
No, I'm not saying that's cool. I'm sorry. I guess that's how it came out. No, it's just an odd little thing with a celebrity. And,
Did you do that on purpose, or was it just like, hey, this is a really good like recording house?
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the story. It was a long time ago when I read it, and it was like in Spin magazine.
If I ever meet the guy he records with, Atticus Ross, I've met his son for like 10 seconds. I guess if it ever comes up next time I'm dropping pleasantries and that's it, I'll try to sneak that question in.
Hey, didn't Trent used to live in the man?
Yeah, I'll say Trent so he thinks I know him. Like, yeah, me and Trent were hanging out the other day.
We're hanging out,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, he's like
some lyrics, you know, for the next album. And
oh yeah, I know he's 50 and I'm 27. We hang out all the time. Okay, here's another one. He wrote a music video called, well, I don't know if I should tell you. I feel like if I tell you the music video, you'll get it because you're pretty good with this stuff. He wrote a music video that's very long and with a very, very famous artist. Do you know what it might be?
I know he wrote a video with Michael Jackson.
Okay. Yeah, so you got it. Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember where was it Thriller or was it Remember the Time?
It's called Ghosts.
Ghost. Oh yeah, I did read that. I read that somewhere. I don't remember that video.
Yeah, I heard it was not popular. That it dropped pretty quickly.
Because I didn't think it was Thriller because I mean he wasn't like that. I wouldn't say he was like at his. Had reached his zenith at that point in like 84. What you know, Remember the Time, I wouldn't have expected him to have written that one because that one's more, you know, it's got Eddie Murphy in it. And
not King style.
No, I was like, so, but Ghost, I don't think I've ever seen the video. Now, you know, thank you, YouTube. I'll be looking for that.
Okay, do you know what Stephen King's only out-of-print book is?
Through the Dragon's Eyes?
Eyes of the Dragon?
Eyes of the Dragon?
No.
I mean, logic, you would think it would be one of his earlier novels and Carrie.
No, you can still find Carrie. That's in print. Come on. But if it's out of print, you have to explain why we don't really, you know, it's not a popular one.
Oh,
I know you're trying to look.
Dance Macabre or whatever.
No, Dance Macabre. That's the one of his nonfiction ones about writing horror in particular, which I've read actually. I really like Dance Macabre. I need to read on writing next.
You got my three guesses. I'm not gonna know.
Yeah, search through the gigantic archives of King novels. It's Rage, which is technically a trick question because it's actually his first Richard Bachman book. Do you know which one Rage is?
I don't remember the story. If I heard the story, I'd probably know it. Yeah.
So it's about a kid who's frustrated and holds his classroom hostage and does a school shooting, basically. A school shooting that happened in '88 in California. The shooter attributed inspiration to Rage. So King let it drop out of print and out of circulation completely because he, you know, was not happy with that result and didn't want to be inspiring any other school shootings. Okay.
And then Pearl Jam wrote the song Jeremy and shot the famous Jeremy video. It was based on the same shooting, right?
Sounds like it. Well, when did 10 come out?
Right. And that was 91-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, like 91. That's I would have guessed around like between 90 and 92. I think 91's right. Yeah, so pretty close. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
But Eddie Vedder grew up in San Diego. So it makes total sense.
Know. Okay, next question. King released the first ever mass market ebook in 2000. There were problems with hackers. Essentially, there were problems with being able to download it. And, you know, back then we obviously didn't have Kindles or iPads and all that and smartphones. So people had trouble reading it also on their computer. But you were a savvy internet user in 2000 with dial-up, so maybe you would know. And then eventually hackers got the files and were able to release them for free, which pissed King off. But do you know the name of the book?
Dolores Claiborne.
No, it's called Riding the Bullet.
Oh, I have heard of this.
This next one isn't there. This one doesn't have a question to it. I just thought it was a fun story. So Stephen King was writing a story called The Plant. I don't know if you know about this. It was an epistolary story. So, which I had to look up. An epistolary story is like a story told through documents, files, right? It's not a direct first person or third person account, right? You're not reading like, I was walking down the hall or he was walking down the hall. It's you reading like a police report of a situation and you're putting these documents together to create to figure out what the narrative of what happened is. So it was supposed to be an ebook exclusively. Where it originated was he would, instead of sending Christmas cards out to friends and family, he would write these weird little like chapters, these epistolary chapters, and send them out to people, like mail them. And so they were just random little tidbits of stories that they would then have to like, I don't know if he sent each person like, oh, Christmas 1987, like I'm sending everybody chapter 1 and then 88 chapter 2, that, business. But eventually they started releasing them as ebooks, and he was releasing them in chapters, parts, and he was saying that he put them up for free online, but you had to pay $1 on the honor system. So you download it, and then he would be like, yeah, you can download it for free, but I need you to pay $1 afterwards on honor. And if it drops below 75% of people paying the $1 for each chapter, I'm going to stop. During chapter 2, it drops to 70%. But for chapter 3, it rises back up to 75%. But unfortunately, the plan only ever got to chapter 6 before the payments dropped too low. And then he was disappointed in the fans and stopped releasing the plant. So the plant is actually an unfinished story that I think you can still find chapters 1 through 6 online, but there never will be an ending to the story because the people wouldn't pay the $1 on the honor system for it.
I'm okay with that. I believe in artists being compensated for their art.
Okay, I got one last question. I don't think you'll be able to get this because it's pretty one I didn't even know about. So we know about Richard Bachman. For those who don't know, Stephen King created it's
a pen name. Yeah. It's
named Richard Bachman, who originally he said that I think it was two things. One, his publisher wouldn't release more than one book a year because they were saying that there's just not a market for people won't trust if an author is releasing more than one book a year. They'll think the quality's lower, right? They'll think it's just like some, hard crime case dime, like crime novel. So they limited him to one a year. So he created Richard Bachman to be able to release a second book every year. But he also said his secondary goal also was he was curious if his career had just been luck, right? Had he just been in the right place, right time, right book, right everything, and it all fell into place, or is he truly talented? So with Richard Bachman, that gave him the opportunity to have an alias where he could write books and to see how successful they would be and whether or not he was actually a good writer or just lucky. So his first book as Richard Bachman was Rage, which is now out of print. But he went on to do a bunch until, was it 2007 or 9? Richard Bachman died of cancer to the pseudonym.
Right, because some reviewer was dogged enough to dig down and went to the Library of Congress and found that Richard Bachman was, tied back to Stephen King. So he killed him off. But he did bring him back.
Okay. So yeah, my question was then going to be, do you know the name of the guy? So he was a bookstore owner, actually. He was a bookstore owner in Washington, D.C. And one day he was reading Richard Bachman and realized that who the book was dedicated to and the writing was similar to Stephen King. So he went to the Library of Congress, found out Richard Bachman books are, actually written by Stephen King. He called the publisher to ask, what should I do? King called him up personally, said, hey, why don't you write an article about it and you can interview me for it since you figured it out. Do you know the guy's name?
God, no. I mean, I remember when Bachman was killed off. I just don't, I don't remember.
Lizzie's Story he was killed off in or for? It was Blaze. That's right.
Blaze, yeah.
Okay, so Richard Bachman's books were Rage, The Long Walk, Roadwork, The Running Man, which got turned into a movie, Thinner, which I think is a movie now or getting released soon. They collected all as the Bachman books, and then he did The Regulators, which was kind of tie into Desperation, right? And then the final book, Blaze, I want to say was supposed to be posthumous, right? He was like supposedly dead at that point. And then like somebody found the book.
Hey, like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was kind of a similar thing that they found.
Yeah, exactly. After he died, they found the ancient tomes describing Lincoln's vampire hunting days.
Honest Abe wielding the axe.
Okay, so the guy's name was probably, not a unique name. I don't know if it's nothing like that'll probably stick in your memory. His name was Steve Brown.
Yeah. I think of UPS. There you go. Or a proctologist. Yeah. So everybody knows that Stephen King is a big music fan. I mean, you see quotes from various classic rock songs throughout his books. I mean, would The Stand be the Stand without Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper? So getting back to that, he loves music so much that he plays in a band. Can you tell me what the name of his all-star band he performs in?
So I don't know the name of the band, so I'm just going to have to take some shots in the dark. I hope it's after his Maine connection, so I'll guess a town he uses a lot in Maine. We'll guess the Bangers for Bangor, Maine. I think that'd be it.
I like it. I like it.
You know, a gang of bangers. Not trying to say anything, just...
Well, geez. All right. Now we know. I'm just going to leave that one alone.
Well, I mean, you've read it.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's true. I don't want to say too much with the hopes of still getting Steven to come on the show. And
not get reported to the FBI.
Yeah. I don't want to start an investigation. Now, I like the way you're thinking. It's the rock bottom remainders. Yeah, it's a super group of writers. Like Dave Barry, the comedic writer, Ridley Pearson, Scott Turrell, Amy Tan, very famous writer, James McBride, and Mitch Albom, might still be with the Detroit newspaper. You know, Matt Groening, I'm pretty sure he's on The Simpsons. I mean, There's a bunch of other folks.
Well, I don't think I was ever going to get that one.
That one's tough. I'd heard of it. I've actually seen videos on that, and they just rock out. I think it's cool. Creative people don't have to be restricted to just one thing. You can do more things. Are they gonna win a Grammy? No, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. I just think it's kind of cool. Respect that he does it. Then for my second question, we'll save this one for the listeners. Is everyone knows Stephen King's name is Stephen King, but did you know his father changed his last name? So can you tell me, what is Stephen King's father's last name?
All right, so email us with your answers. I think that's going to be it for this episode, but we're going to be back in a week for episode 4, another discussion on Haven. We'll give you the answer to the Stephen King question. I know the answer only because he told me, but let's see what you guys find out. And if you want to email us the answers to that, you can reach us by email at troubledrewatchpod@gmail.com. So that's troubledrewatchpod@gmail.com. You can watch all our episodes and find out news about what's going on our website, troubledpodcast.com. So it's just Troubled Podcast. There's a lot of complications with what Gmails are available. I don't know who's taking Troubled Podcast or Troubled or Haven Podcast, anything like that. Someone's taking those names.
Someone could have a drinking problem and they want to have a podcast about drinking problems. There's all kinds of troubles in this one.
We're also on Twitter, so you can follow us at Havens Troubled. Once again, I don't know who's taking all these Twitter names. I couldn't find one with Troubled or Rewatch Pod. Someone had that. Someone had Troubled Rewatch Pod. So find us at Havens Troubled on Twitter. That's a capital H on Haven and a capital T on Troubled. You can direct message us or tweet at us the answer or anything else you want to say. You can find our podcast anywhere you listen to, like Apple Podcasts, Google, Podbean, Stitcher. And remember, we have a Patreon. If you want to follow us on that, if you like what we do and you're liking what you're hearing, don't be afraid to visit our Patreon. We do extra episodes right now once a month. It's called Troubled with Extra Syrup. And we got extra material for you guys there. The first episode we're doing this month is a full coverage on The Colorado Kid, the novella by Stephen King that Haven is based off of. So we're going to be going really in depth there. They're like a little short. They're going to be shorter than these episodes, but not by much. So we'll be doing those once a month. We'll update you every, episode to kind of tell you what's on the horizon. If there's more you guys want, like if you guys want to do Q&As or AMAs, message us. I don't know. I think it's a stretch even listen to us on a podcast. We'll figure out if there's more to be done on Patreon for you guys. But I think that's it. Anywhere you can reach us through all those places.
Right. Well, if any of them want, to have like questions about embarrassing stories through your childhood, we could do a segment on that if they send them.
Yeah. Send an email to fakeemail@blank.com for that one. The number for that will be in the show notes. And I think that's all I got for you guys.
Thanks, Alex. And I just want to thank everybody for listening. And as we sign off here, please come back next week. Please be safe. And most importantly, never let your troubles get you down.